everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Nikki.
Hi.
And Nick, how was your week?
It was good. I was about to say I didn't do anything, but then I realized we did a lot. Yeah, it was good. It was fun to go on a little mini vacation,
Yeah.
and we stayed at the and so I know that we're going to be talking about the Caverns and Pythian Castle,
Yep.
but we stayed at a cabin separately, and it was really, really cute. So highly recommend Postcard Cabins. There's 2 locations in Missouri.
Nice.
St. Louis and Kansas City-ish areas.
Okay.
They were extremely cute, and it was really relaxing. So that was a nice part of the week.
I stayed with my dad, which was free accommodations, so that's part of the reason that I did that.
Yeah.
But yes, it's been 2 weeks since we've recorded anything, because last week you saw an episode, but we recorded that the week before. So, because last weekend we went to a little, like she said, trip to Springfield to do a couple things, and we're going to talk about those this week and next week. So,
Yeah.
we'll start, though. I do have a shout out before I get too far ahead of myself, because we got a comment.
On YouTube?
Yes. So, John Davis 7647. Thanks for the comment, John.
Okay.
This was on the Armageddon episode that we did last week. Yes, last week, the week before, last week, whatever. Anyway, it basically just talks about how there's we could the possibility of a nuclear exchange at any time. Thanks, John.
I love it. That definitely helps my anxiety. As if
yeah.
I don't live in like constant fear of a lot of things.
Yeah, this is and very, kind of detailed what would happen, like the steps that could possibly happen, and that's awesome. I don't,
But just hey, remember, just you and all the kids, just go to prison. You'll survive.
Yes, go to prison. Don't
That's
tell
what
your
National
kids.
Geographic taught us.
Don't tell your kids to go to prison, please. Anyway, so that's fun. Thanks, John, for the comment. We appreciate it. Anyone else who wants to comment, Instagram, YouTube. I try to double check Spotify and things. Sometimes I miss those, but just we try to check them all, and we'll try to give you a shout out once we do. But anyway, for this week, we'll just go straight into it. We're talking about Fantastic Caverns, which is a cave.
Yeah.
If Caverns didn't give that away.
I enjoy caves.
Caves are fun.
They're so nice and cool.
Yeah, caves are fun. This is one of the few drive-through caves or ride-through caves in the country.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it has to be big enough to fit a vehicle. Like you ride in a Jeep pulling a trailer, which is it's interesting. It's a lot different than most caves you have to walk through. So this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of fun. Give me a little book here, all that kind of stuff. So the
He's
cave
ready with the facts.
I got the facts from them specifically. So
you're really pulling out the Springfield accent there. From them particularly.
Yes. Yep. That is where I'm from. So I went to this cave a lot as a kid.
Apparently, I went once or twice as a kid, but I didn't remember. So I was excited to go where I could actually remember it.
Yeah, we went on I went on a couple of different field trips here, just because it's kind of interesting and it's just what we did. There's a lot of caves in Missouri. There's a ton of caves in Missouri. I think there's like.
Yeah, well, this was gonna be my fun fact, but since
sorry,
you mentioned it.
Oh no,
Missouri has over 7,500 caves.
Okay. And how many of those? There's a certain number I remember seeing somewhere that were tourable. Did you look? Did you
it was
see
less
that?
than 100.
Yeah, it's not a ton that are open for tours, but there's a lot that that there actually are. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so this cave, particularly, was originally found by Juno the dog in 1862.
I
Um,
love dogs.
Farmer John Knox was out, um, and his dog went chased. I think they said chased an animal into the cave, right?
Yeah.
And couldn't figure out how to get out. Basically, got stuck in the cave. Farmer followed him in, and realized that there was a massive cave on his property. He kept that
Mhm.
hidden for the next 5 years because he didn't want it to be used by either side of soldiers in the Civil War. Is the
Yeah.
story that they
Which is very interesting.
tell, because they said he didn't want to take sides, so he didn't. He
Mhm.
kept it hidden so that neither side would know about it. Boarded it up, kept it hidden.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in 1867 was when the first. It's 1867, right? The first group. Yeah,
Yeah,
1867.
so Knox, he put an advertisement in the paper
Mm-hmm.
wanting explorers, and the Springfield Women's Athletic Club were the first explorers.
12
So
women.
we
Yep.
got to a cool point in the tour where their names, they called it old time graffiti or something like that,
Yeah, he
because
said.
they had put their names on the wall.
He said, if it's new, it's graffiti. If it's old, it's history. So at this point, it's
Yeah.
been so long that it's now history. Yeah, it says on the wall, February 27th, 1867 or 1867. We've got pictures that we'll put up for you guys to see.
Yeah.
But it has all their names on it carved into the wall, which is kind of crazy too. That it's like, I guess there's nothing there
Hmm.
to mess with it, but that's kind of
Yeah, it's a pretty
surprising
preserved
that it
ecosystem.
would
And
stay
they've
for
also
that
got
long.
glass in front of it,
Oh, do
so
they?
people don't touch it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think there was a pane of glass,
was
right?
there?
Wasn't
I
there?
don't know. I mean, it's kind of up on the wall, so I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't notice there was a pane of glass, but that's um interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's then they started doing tours for 50 cents a person. 50 cents. You can't get anything for 50 cents. You imagine doing a tour
Mm-mm.
for 50 cents?
No.
What did this tour cost us? Like
Or
36 bucks or something like that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So 50 cents for a tour would be crazy.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I would like those prices. But then again, I like supporting places like this and
Yeah.
supporting history, so I don't actually care that much about
No, it's not.
not
I
paying
mean,
50
it's not.
cents.
It's not that terrible. Like, um, so the cave was used on and off for a long time. It was used um, as a music hall at one point, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool, and they broadcast that around the country, which is pretty interesting. Which was in
That
the
was Farmerama, I think.
Farmerama or something like that is what they called it. Um,
Typical Missouri
yeah.
concert
Um,
name.
which is cool because it was like our tour guide said, it was broadcast across the country, which, this was in the 60s, 70s. So,
Hmm.
I mean, nationwide was a big, now nationwide
It
is
was a big
nothing.
deal for
Yeah,
sure.
but back then
Hmm.
nationwide was a huge deal. Um, they've
It was
also,
also a speakeasy in the
yeah,
1920s,
during the,
which was cool.
yeah, that's cool too. Because you'd never be able to find, like, talk about the best
Yeah.
speakeasies. You're never going to find this. It's underground, like
Yeah,
literally
because
underground.
I think I told you this when we were there. Like there were a lot of places where if one person like owned the police, they didn't have to follow the rules of like Kansas City.
Yeah.
There were a lot of open bars during what would have been, prohibition because Tom Pendergast owned the police basically. But in places like Springfield, where that wasn't the case, you had to find these underground,
Mm-hmm.
not literally underground. This place was
This
literally
place was
underground, but
literally underground.
those places to do that. So
Yeah.
I always think that's so fascinating.
And it's also the first. Where did I say the first ride-through tour was given in 1962? So they haven't actually been doing ride-through tours for that long. But they've
Hmm.
always used Jeeps. They just put a trailer on a Jeep and pull it through the cave.
Yeah.
It is a really cool experience because you do get to see
Hmm.
a lot of different things. One of the things that I thought that I didn't remember from before, I remember almost every cave tour you go on, you get to a point in the tour where they turn off all the lights and show you what it looks like in darkness.
Hmm.
Which, if you've I mean, I would say most of you have probably been in a cave at some point. Whether you've been deep into a cave enough to know how dark it is, that I don't know. But I would
Mhm.
guess you've been into a cave at some point. If you get into a cave, there is no light, which means your eyes don't ever adjust to it. So
Mhm.
it's complete darkness, because there's
Yeah.
no light to adjust to, so your eyes don't adjust. Um, Now, our tour guide, Mark, who was, by the way, a great tour guide, um,
Mhm.
said that when the cave, um, it was one of the first places to have electricity
Yes,
in
before Kansas City
yeah.
got electricity in most
So he said
places.
a lot of people would show up just to see the light
The
bulbs,
light bulbs.
which were just kind
I
of
know, I thought that was cute.
strung up, and they have them strung up in a
Yeah.
section that they can show you. It's the darkness and thing is how they show you. It's they go from like darkness,
Mhm.
and then they're like, this is what it looked like at this point, and they show you all the little light bulbs hanging and stuff like that, and then
Mhm.
they turn on what they call as theater lighting, which is it's
Mhm.
very cool. It's the way that it's all
It
lit.
illuminates like the different formations and
Yeah, and it's all lit to where you don't see any of the lights. So if you've
yeah.
been, I feel like several caves are done this way, but basically they hide the lights and they shine them up on things so that you can
Mhm.
see like the shadows and everything else, and it makes it look very cool, very
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool.
impressive.
And it makes everything look really, really pretty. I
Yeah.
did like learning about the different formations because I am not a science person, but
Hmm.
this was fascinating and it was really, really pretty how this was one of the caves where it's formed by water because there's
Hmm.
just different types of caves, but this one was formed by water
Hmm.
over time and erosion. Um, and the stalagmites and stalactites, I never knew the difference.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
was interesting to learn. The stalagmites stand up mighty from the floor, and
Hmm.
then the stalactites hang tight to the ceiling, I
Yep.
think he said, was
Yep.
how you remember it.
Yep. I remember
And
that
then
from a
learning about
kid.
the
Yeah.
sinkholes. And then afterwards, when we walked out to see Indian Springs, where it leads out to, was
Hmm.
really cool. Um, I had no idea that the sinkholes in there were like that. And it's not like when he first said sinkhole, I thought of like a tar pit or something, when
Yeah.
you like sink in and you can't get out. But this was like it was like a drainage system for the cave.
Yeah. So
And so to see where it funnels out to the spring was really cool.
the spring is yeah, there's a spring that funnels out because the cave is two floors basically.
Hmm.
It's what did they say? It's about a mile on the top floor and then 3 miles on the bottom section. You can't go down to
Yeah.
the. I mean, you can, but you don't tour down to the bottom section because it's not. It's a lot smaller, and it's
Hmm.
in the wet season. It's a river. In the
Yeah.
dry
Yeah.
season, right now, there's no water in it. There's two
Mhm.
large sinkholes that you pass over and you can see when you go through the tour. But and again, we got pictures to show you guys of this stuff. But
Mhm.
uh, it is so the sinkholes are how the water a lot of times gets into the cave, and how a lot of
Mhm.
things, uh, some food for animals and that kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff washes down through those sinkholes. And there's actually one of the I don't know about this one. I've never seen any of the sinkholes for this one. You can't like it's not open.
Mhm.
You've been to Silver Dollar City, haven't you?
Mhm.
Have you done the cave tour there, Marvel Cave? Okay.
Yeah.
There they have a sinkhole which is in the main room in the first room you go into that is so
Mhm.
big that you can fly a hot air balloon through it.
Yes.
So, like
Yeah.
that's
That's cool to me.
yeah, that's cool. Like that's a big old sinkhole.
Mhm.
Um I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just considered a hole. I think at that point it's not even sinking, it's just a hole. But
Yeah.
uh but this is more like you can't actually see out of the cave. It's like
Mhm.
weird, a little bit different, but it's
It's like
really
a gas funnel. That's the
yeah.
shape. It's like a gas funnel and it funnels out to the spring. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
very different.
But
Mhm.
it is really
The only
cool.
thing that made me sad when we were going through the tour was the poor bats. They
Yeah.
said that their bat population has dwindled because um nothing human made, I guess as far as they know, But there was a virus that ran through them, the white nose
Hmm.
syndrome or something like that. So they only have like 25 bats left
Yeah.
in the whole entire cave,
And that's
which
been a
was so sad.
problem with bat populations around the world for a little while, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it was a very interesting tour all around. Um,
yeah.
the reason that I wanted to go tour it,
Hmm.
well, first just because they have a million billboards on the
Oh
highway,
yeah.
and I was like, I don't remember doing that. I knew
Even
I had done it when I was little, but
yeah.
I wanted to do it again. But also because on Reddit, well, before I get into conspiracy theories, did you have anything else about the tour?
Oh, I wanted to say that our tour guide made a joke about the billboards. He's like, I don't know if you saw this online or
Yeah,
whatever, or maybe the one billboard or the 500 billboards that you saw driving down the highway. Yeah,
literally.
like they're all over the state. Like I've seen them
Yeah.
everywhere.
And they
And
ask you when you go to buy your ticket, did you plan on coming here
yeah,
when you left your destination? And
yeah,
I think that's their way of asking, did you come because of a billboard?
yeah. It is. I mean, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of. I mean, it's a cave, so you can't really move it. So it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like it is a weird
Yeah.
place to have to drive to.
Hmm.
But it's a lot of fun. Again, it's one of the only ride-through caves in the world, in the
Hmm.
country I know of. So
Yeah.
it's um it's impressive. It's pretty to look at. It's like an hour tour, so it's not
Yeah.
not
It was
really
good. It
that
was worth it.
long. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Um, yeah, it was really good. And so I wanted to tour it already, but also I had seen on, well, I saw it on Instagram, but it's from Reddit, cave conspiracies. So that's also part of what I wanted to talk about today.
okay.
Conspiracy theories for me are kind of like people watching.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
get that.
like reading what other people think and like you're just like, huh,
Yeah,
that's something.
I get that. I'm kind of the same way. It's like, okay, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm like, I'm really getting an insight into your brain right now, and it's
yeah,
very interesting to me.
yeah. There's
Um,
some
so
crazy ones out
one
there.
of there's a ton of
Yeah.
cave conspiracy theories, and just underground and other things. But the one specifically that I saw that made me want to do this was there's a map. And granted, there is some data missing from this map. So I will say I'm going to post this, but take it with a grain of salt, as with any conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Um, but this map shows missing disappearances where it's like a mysterious circumstance and they vanish like without a trace and no one there's no leads, no anything.
Okay.
And then the next map that it overlays with is cave systems
Okay.
in the United States. And they're pretty close. Obviously, it's like correlation, not causation,
Yeah.
but they're pretty close. So I'll post it because it is interesting to look at, especially in the Appalachian Mountains. That is a pretty densely populated area for caves and mysterious disappearances without a trace.
Okay.
Um, so that was what took me into this deep dive of conspiracy theories about caves and underground systems.
Okay.
So besides the like people disappearing mysteriously and people give different reasons for that. Have you heard of like in like the Appalachian Mountains and things like the feral people?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of
Okay, so
a
it's
yeah.
kind of along the same lines.
Okay.
They think there's like cave people that are feral, but they have these like cave homes basically, and so they will hunt, and they're almost like cannibals.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the things, one of the reasons for these disappearances is like cannibal cave people.
Okay.
So says Reddit.
Okay.
Um, but then I did I went in a rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
sinkhole, if you
Yeah.
will,
Oh, okay. There we go.
of different conspiracies. So there's also QAnon thinks that there's extensive like child trafficking and rescue operations. So I'm like, okay, we have both
Okay.
apparently. Um, which it's QAnon. And then another one specifically I saw about the Grand Canyon is that it's an underground city. There's an underground city under there, and there's like this whole lost civilization still living,
Hmm.
which I was like, well, wouldn't we know that by now about the Grand Canyon? But anyways, that was an interesting one.
Okay.
Um, and then there's the Hollow Earth theory,
Yeah.
which isn't really cave specific, but there is another theory given for some of the disappearances.
Yeah.
Um, and so there are people that literally believe that the earth is hollow and has its own sunlight and source of power inside the earth. So they think that like we are just on the shell of the earth and it's 800 miles thick, but then there's an inner earth as well. So they think that people literally like one of the videos I watched, it gave the description of like if you have like a coffee mug and you watch an ant crawl like over the top and over the side, they don't fall into a hole, they crawl over the
Mm-hmm.
side. And so that is how they described it, is like you don't really know you're going into the hollow earth, you just do.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay. Anyways,
Okay.
that was one of them. And then the last one, um, full functioning underground cities.
Okay.
So, and they cited things like as examples, which these aren't really examples. There's caverns in like in cities like Edinburgh that are ancient and they didn't have room to build out, so they built up and down.
Yeah.
So there did used to be a functioning city like underneath cities like Edinburgh, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
Um, Empire State Plaza, I guess there's like a shopping center and things underneath there. And same with Subtropolis in Kansas City. In the caves here, there's like a
Yeah.
business complex.
Yeah.
There's like USPS and different
Mm-hmm.
warehouses and things.
Yeah. The
And
government
then
has a big cheese storage up there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the catacombs in New York and some other cities have catacombs too. So
Mm-hmm.
they were saying that if these can exist, then fully functioning civilizations can also exist. So, do you believe that fully functioning cities can exist underground and then we don't know about it?
I have a hard time believing a fully functioning city could.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna put anything past like when you were talking about the cave people in the Appalachians.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna put
Yeah.
anything past like a small, like 20, 30 group of people, small village or something
Hmm.
living in a cave. That wouldn't surprise me because that'd be easy to hide in a
Yeah.
vast forest. We kind of talked about that with like
Yeah.
the cryptids when we were talking about Bigfoot and stuff. It'd be very easy to
Hmm.
hide something like that in such a vast area and space.
Hmm.
I think a fully fledged like functioning city with what I think of as a
Hmm.
city is a little more far fetched.
Yeah.
Because there's not eh, there would have had to have been a point at some point if it was true, there would have had to have been an evolution made to where we would be able to live without light underground.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a cave, like we talked about, it's complete
Hmm.
darkness. You can't see anything. So all
Yeah.
of those animals are blind. Any animals that live down
Yes.
there can't see because there isn't
Hmm.
anything to see. So people would have had to have evolved some certain way and gained certain senses to be able to live like that. Which I know
Yeah.
I know
Unless it was like,
blind people can learn,
yeah.
techniques
Hmm.
to move around in their surroundings without, using different things. I know that's a way, some of them can use like an
Hmm.
echolocation type stuff, but I think living entirely underground, there's not really source for food under there. Like there's a lot of things
Yeah.
that kind of throw me off. And
I agree.
The Hollow Earth theory is just a weird one too. So
Yeah. It's also been widely discredited. But
yeah.
Um, the underground city question reminded me of, I don't know if you ever read this book or watched the movie. I read the book. I don't think I've seen the movie, but City of Ember. It was in the 2000s that this
I don't think so.
film came out, I
Mm-mm, I
believe.
don't think so.
But the premise is it's an underground city, and the generator that they use to fuel the city was only made to last 200 years, and so they have to find, ways to either fix it or, move cities or whatever. Anyways, it was a really good book.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if the movie's good or not, but
Okay.
that's what it reminded me of. But it was a fully functioning city, but it ran off power. So they weren't blind or anything. It was a fully functioning city
Yeah.
run on like a massive generator.
And I don't.
So,
That's where the other thing comes in. Is like I don't think I if you could live underground with that, if you had light
mhm.
and things, you could grow some things underground. Like you can't grow a lot of, you can grow everything underground, but you can grow some things underground. But
Yeah,
also, you would have like I would think somebody would notice a generator big enough to be running a city
exactly.
somewhere. Like
That's what I was gonna say. Like, how did someone notice, them tapping into power or
yeah, and it's not
yeah.
like a you know it's a generator big enough to run a city is going to take a lot of
Mhm.
something. I mean, you're going to have to.
Yeah, gas
I
or
mean, you're
who
basically
knows.
going to need a
Yeah.
power plant. Like it's not just a
Yeah.
generator at that point. We
Is
we
it
need
running on water or solar? If
yeah
so, we're going to notice tapping into a water system or
yeah
having solar panels, above the surface.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
It's
just pulling
just
power
interesting.
from randomly from the grid. I mean. Everything is a
Mhm.
corporate like power is done by corporations,
Exactly.
so I think they're gonna notice if something's missing somewhere.
Yeah, I think they're going to notice if a whole entire city is being
Yeah.
powered. I agree with you. I definitely think that there are most likely people who live in caves,
Oh
especially in
yeah.
places like the Appalachian Mountains
Yeah.
where it's extensive. There's very many places there that are uninhabited above ground,
Hmm.
and so we don't even know what's below ground.
Yeah.
Um, and there are lots of cave systems there. The Missouri is second only to Tennessee in cave systems, and so that's in that area. So
Yeah, that's
I
the
absolutely
Appalachians, yeah.
believe that there are people that probably live in caves and are cut off from society. Do
Yeah.
I believe that they're cannibals and causing disappearances? No, but
I mean anything's possible.
you
What is
you get serial killers and
yeah,
things
F
like that's a
is
one-off instance,
the
but
FBI says there's like 100 active serial killers in the US right now. Like
yeah.
that's I mean,
So could one of them be, or several of them be serial
yeah.
killers? Sure.
Or could serial killers be hiding people in caves? Like disappearances and
Yeah.
hiding somebody in a cave. It would
Oh, for
it
sure.
seems like it would be very easy to throw a body into a cave
Yeah.
and never have it be found again. I mean, I don't know how
Hmm.
I know there are cave rescues, and I know
Hmm.
that does happen, but I mean,
Yeah.
how many caves did you say Missouri had? Several thousand. Like,
7,500.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind
Yeah.
of
I agree. I think that is much more plausible than a whole entire city or civilization. Now, I know there were Native American
mm-hmm.
societies that used like the cliff dwellers. And so I know for a fact there were, but
Mm-hmm.
if the like whole entire Grand Canyon was hiding an underground civilization, like we would know.
Yeah. Well,
So,
also
yeah.
the cliff dwellers, like you said, they built homes into
Yeah,
caves,
but they was still
but they
open
still came
to
outside. Like that's not,
exactly.
they didn't
Hmm.
just they basically just used the caves as shelter when they needed it, and then they were
Yeah.
outside still. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Also, like uh disappearances in cave or cave area disappearances too could just bears hibernate. They hide in
Yeah.
caves like
Yeah.
you know I mean I know
Animals,
Yogi likes
crime.
picnic baskets, but
Yeah.
I don't think every bear just likes a picnic basket. I think some of them want a human, and that's what they get, and they drag you into a cave, and then you're gone and you disappear, and we never find you
And then
again.
you get added to the Reddit
You
list
get
of
added to the Reddit list
cave
of cave
disappearances.
disappearances. um
Yeah.
so that's I think that there's, just like any conspiracy, I think there's probably a little bit of truth mixed into it somewhere, a little bit of possibility mixed into it somewhere. I don't think it's anywhere near. I think it's over exaggerated. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Like a lot of
yeah.
things. Yeah.
But it's fun to
That's
think
what I
about.
had for the. It is. It really was. It's like everything that we talk about on this podcast. It's very interesting to me. I don't know if it's interesting to anyone else, but it's fun to go through and read what other people are thinking and conspiracy theories. I like it.
Yeah, because conspiracy theories are. I mean, we've done several different conspiracy theories on here, and just because they're interesting, like,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of them out there that turn out to be, somewhat true. And there's a lot of them out there that are discredited on a regular basis. It just kind of depends. Like there's some crazy ones out there, and then there's some legitimately
there's some plausible ones.
Plausible ones.
Yeah.
Like it's
mm-hmm.
each one's a little bit different. But anyway,
yeah.
I think it's time for facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that about it? Okay, Nick.
Okay.
I'm sorry I made you use your fact earlier, by the way.
That's sorry. Okay. I always have two in case I want to talk about it because I know myself. So we didn't talk about this specifically. We did talk about how caves were used in the Civil War and John Knox didn't want to take sides. So he boarded up the cave and protected it. But the reason, we didn't talk about the reason both sides wanted to use caves, or any army wants to use caves. The bat guano is turned into gunpowder. So, and they showed us this process, which is very interesting. They filter it. It turns into kind of like a slushy mix when it's added with water. And then they boil it until all the water's gone, but there's like crystals left. And then you add ash, sulfate, and charcoal, I think he said, and that turns into black powder. So I thought that was interesting that that's, why a lot of armies want to use and did use a lot of other caves during the Civil War.
Yeah, because they could get gunpowder out of it, which, I mean, you can obviously, imagine would be a vital resource for an army.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes total sense. And, if it's that easy to make it, bat guano is used in a bat poo, is used in a lot of things. It used to be used in a lot more things. One thing that I always thought was interesting, because it used to be mined out of caves. Marvel Cave talks about that a lot, because they used to mine it out of there. Is it used to be used in a lot of makeup products, which is interesting because it's mascaras and your lipsticks and things like that. So I don't know how much it's used now, but used to it was used a lot. So just imagine you're spreading poo all over your face, because that's basically what you were doing. I'm sure it's purified or something, but
good thing I don't wear makeup.
Yeah, that's a little far beyond my thing. Anyway,
I thought that was interesting.
The a fact that I found that was interesting is, this is an estimate, by the way. I'm guessing they've never found one this deep, but scientists estimate that the maximum depth of a cave could be is 9,800 feet. Because at that point, the weight of the rock above it would be too high to support a
too
cavern.
Much pressure.
There'd be too much weight and pressure to support a cavern. And something that is interesting about this cave that I didn't remember actually on the tour. I remembered a lot of this tour from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I didn't remember was the collapsed room. Which they show you. It's the second to last room you go through when you're in the cave. And it's just a pile of debris. It's like, the ceiling is collapsed 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's just a big pile of debris in the middle of the room. There's one of the jokes that Mark made several times, our tour guide made several times, was that When it comes to caves, people ask how long it's been there, and the official cave tour guide, according to him, is that it's been there a long time. Because we don't really know. Because we don't really have any way. It's so slow, such a slow process, that we don't really have a way to measure it.
Yeah, because he was explaining that, they can estimate based on, how long like the stalactites and stalagmites are growing, based on, the water, but it's still just an estimate because every single season is completely different.
Yeah.
Especially here in Missouri.
Yeah. Rain is a big factor in how much things move, like how much water you get into the cave and things like this. So this room, it's a big pile of debris. It's rocks that have basically kept falling because you had water that came through, created cracks, and it just kept falling off in shelves. Now, at this point, he said this room, and we got a picture of it too again, this room is stable, and they've determined that it's basically now one big rock. It's been there so long, it's fallen off so many times that the room has arched over, so it's like a stable arch now. They don't ever think it will collapse again. And the debris in the middle is been there so long that it has now fused together into one giant rock. Even though it looks like a big pile of rocks that could just fall at any moment. But it's real cool looking. Like, it's real neat looking.
It is. The whole cave is very pretty.
Yeah. What was speaking of being pretty, one more thing about the cave, and one more question about the cave. What was your favorite thing to see in the cave? Like, what did you think was the prettiest or most interesting thing you saw in the cave?
Of like the formations.
Any of it. Doesn't really matter to me. If you want to call out the video at the far back of it, that's fine with me.
Yeah. The video. The women's names were interesting. The first explorers and how they were the first ones there. Honestly, my favorite part was outside the cave. I really liked seeing the spring.
Okay.
And what the cave filters out to, just because I like the water. I think it's so pretty.
Oh yeah.
And this was a really pretty spring.
Yeah.
That walk was really pretty.
Yeah.
So
we
I
didn't
think
get any pictures of that because we didn't think about it. Our bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think that was my favorite, was seeing the way the water filters out.
Okay.
I'm a Pisces. I like water.
That
was my favorite part.
Me too. Got my water from a volcano here. Anyway, I think the prettiest thing is the Hall of Giants. I think it's the Hall of Giants is what they call it. It's the massive columns. It's the last room you're in the cave. And they kind of show you what it would have been like with a little candle and a lantern and how they would have navigated the cave, and they walk around a little bit, and and then they kind of like reveal this with the lights and how big these columns are, because they're massive. And again, we have pictures to show you, of course, because we took a lot of those. Or I took a lot of those. I think Nikki took some. I don't know how many pictures you took on that, but I know I took a lot. I know I took a lot of pictures and a few videos. So, it's just, that's always the coolest one to me, because it's just amazing to think how long it took those to form. Like, it's just, it's fascinating and amazing how long it would have taken something like this to grow, like to become what it is, because it's just erosion. It's erosion and then growing. Like, it's crazy.
It is very cool.
Yeah, but I think that is about it for this week. Nick, anything else? Is that it? We good?
Good.
Okay. Well, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Next week, we'll finish up our little trip to Springfield. And we will talk to you guys then.
Bye.